First things first, how did you get into romance?
I started reading romance when I was probably 10 or 11. And my mom had these Joanna Lindsay books, like the classic,
Mm,
like Hearts of Flame.
yeah, the clinch covers.
Yeah, she had those in her room and I wasn't allowed to read them because, and I knew they were naughty too, because the covers are
Right.
so naughty, which immediately made me want to read them. So I started
Of
stealing
course.
them late at night, like, or when she was at work, I would steal them and I would hide them
Yeah.
under my box springs and just read them after she went to bed. And I freaking loved them. Like I didn't
Yeah.
understand the euphemisms at all, but like the adventures were top
Yeah.
notch. So that's how I started and then just never stopped.
I'm very jealous. Yeah. I yeah, my journey was very much marred by internalized misogyny. So like all the books that I loved as a kid, looking back, I'm like, I loved the romance part. Like those were always the parts,
Yeah.
my favorite parts. And then like not until an adult, I was like, you know what? The world is ending. This is nice. And then suddenly, I'm back to reading 200 books a year, like I did when I was 12.
Me too. And there's something very healing for me as a mom because my 12-year-old loves romance too. She got sort of
Mm.
started with Twilight and just like
Oh, yeah.
zoomed through all four of those and then was like, more.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like being able to like share it with her and like have her enjoy
Yeah.
it is really healing for me, my inner child. And because I had to hide it for forever. I don't even know,
Right.
like at what
Right.
point, I think I'd moved out by the time I was like freely
Yeah,
reading them.
finally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much more, I feel like romance YA, like it's like I feel like
Yeah.
now at least when I was, I mean, I don't know. I read this book, I don't remember the author, but I think it was called like Crank or something. It was like these weird poetry books and they were like YA, but there was like so much like drugs and sex. Like they were messed up books. They were not, they were for children like my age, but they were messed up. And that was all I had. So like to
Oh,
have to have great, but I read them because I was like, oh, these are sexy. I'm 13
yeah.
years old and this is all I have.
The
So,
problem that I have is like my daughter's 12, but she's just like a
yeah.
really voracious reader.
Yeah.
And she wants to read the sex stuff now. Like she's just like she read Allie Hazelwood's Check and Mate and she loved it. And she's like, well,
Yeah.
I want to read another Allie Hazelwood. And Allie Hazelwood,
And you were
she's
like,
pretty steamy. And then she saw the cover for Bride and was like, I want to read Bride because she loved Twilight. And then I
yeah.
resisted for
Oh, yeah.
forever. And I
Bride
was like,
is a lot.
no, no. And then I was like, you know what? Fine. Read it. Let me know if
Fine.
you have questions about nodding.
We'll talk about
Let's
it.
just talk about
Yeah.
it.
What a jump. Like
I
into if you're
know.
gonna pick an alley. I
I
was like,
know.
I don't know, the love hypothesis like
I
only
know.
has like one sex scene, so it's like a little bit, but she was like, no, that's
Yeah.
the one.
She's actually reading The Love Hypothesis right now because her this is such an LA story, but her babysitter from when she was
Yeah.
younger is in the movie. She plays Anne, the
Oh my
the
God, that's
best friend.
so cool.
So now she's like, well, I have to see it before because Rachel's in the movie, and so where she's or I have to read it so that
Yeah.
I read it
Read it
before then.
first.
Yeah, so it's
That's
cute.
so cool. Oh my God, my
Yeah.
babysitter's in the Love Hypothesis.
Right. I know. It's such a like LA thing. Like she
Yeah, but
was but
that's
it's
cool.
still fun. It's like
I
a
grew up in
random
the suburbs of
crossover.
Philly. We don't have fun stories
Right.
like
Yeah. I
that.
grew up in Colorado. We didn't have stories like that either.
Yeah, it's like my babysitter, I don't know, climbed a light pole when the Eagles won. Like that's that's the kind of stuff people in Philly has.
Philly's story.
That's a Philly story.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. She wasn't famous when she babysat for me. She was just,
Well, yeah.
going to auditions all the time and, working hard.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. I'm very excited for the movie
Me
too.
too. It's
So,
super cute.
yeah, it's fun that your daughter gets to read them now.
Yeah. Well, again, there's like the spice, but I'm like, all right.
There's like one. Although I
Yeah.
do, the memorable from the Love Hypothesis is like when he puts like her boob, like her entire boob in his mouth.
I
And
immediately thought about that when she said she was going to read that one. I was just like, okay.
I need you to know that's not something that happens in real.
I maybe it depends on the size,
I
I guess. But
mean, I
like,
just,
but
yeah,
yeah, my approach is always like, I'm gonna stop censoring as long as it's like something that's not
right,
exploitative.
right.
Like I'll start and we just will talk about it. Like we'll talk about
Yeah, I feel
memes.
like that's the way to go. Yeah, because I was like, I got into fan fiction when I was 12, and I got in it specifically because I wanted like sexy scenes with my favorite characters. And like my parents didn't know anything I was doing. So I feel like your approach is that's the good approach.
Yeah. Well, and I've been making this photography book for the last year, and my daughter
Right.
comes on the shoots, and so she gets to meet all these romance authors,
Oh my God.
which then she wants to read their books, you know? So
And
she
some of
came
them
with me
you're like,
to yeah, so she came with me to Texas and she got to meet Catherine Center, who's one of our favorite authors. I love, like, I had been feeding her Catherine Center novels for
yeah.
forever because they're like closed store. So, and they're so well written and they're just like joyful and they're just like such fun reads. And so she was really excited to meet Catherine Center. But in that same trip, we also photographed Ruby Dixon, who's adorable.
Right.
Like, she's so sweet and fun and she brought donuts.
Right.
But then Isla was like, well, I want to read her books too.
And you were like thinking back to like the first Ice Planet Barbarians when she like wakes up to him eating her out and you were
I
like,
know.
maybe in a few years.
Thankfully, she's dropped that one because she's back on
Yeah.
to Allie. So,
Yeah. All right, so since we started talking about your book, let's introduce the podcast real quick. Hi, listener. Welcome to We Read It One Night. I feel like I always develop a list when I say the podcast name. We Read It One Night, the podcast where we talk about the books that make us want to stay up all night reading. I am your host and romance reader, Allison, and today I am joined by.
Chandra Wicke. Oh, do I keep going
You
here?
want to, yeah,
Okay.
just like a little tagline.
Yeah. I'm Chandra Wicke, and I am a photographer in Los Angeles. And I spent the last year and a half creating a photography book that is an unapologetic celebration of romance novels and romance authors. So,
Yeah.
photographed and interviewed 41 romance authors for the book.
Yes. Yeah. And I am so excited for it. I first heard about it because I think Sarah McLean talked about it on her podcast. She was like, go check
Yeah.
this out. And you were doing like a Kickstarter for it.
Mhm.
Um, and the name of the project was actually sort of what first, got me wanting to have you come on the podcast because it's called the Happily Ever After Society. And like HEAs are the meat and potatoes, of our genre. So tell me a little bit how this idea for this book first came to you.
So as I mentioned, I'm a photographer, and I I was listening to a podcast with another commercial photographer, and he was talking about how every time a comedian came to his town, he would harass them and to photograph them, and he ended up building up this like huge portfolio of comedians.
Yeah.
And I started thinking to myself, I was like, well, who would I want to photograph? Because I'm not big on most celebrities,
Yeah.
but I was thinking, God, I love romance novels. It's like my thing. It's my hobby. I read nonstop, probably 200 books a year, and I would love to photograph some of my favorite romance novel authors. And then I got the idea for the book, which was to have like a book that highlighted like had beautiful photos of all of these authors and talked about their career and their process and what inspires them and to talk about the genre itself. And I was like, that I would love that book. I want that book on my shelf. Like I want that,
Hmm.
but I don't want to make it because it's going to be so expensive and time consuming. And
Yeah.
I already, I have two dogs and two kids and a full-time job, and I don't have time for all of this.
Right.
But then for probably a year, I just talked about it and like talked about it with other people and was like, you should make this. Nobody took me up on it.
Yeah, I
It
got
might
a
be
great
like,
idea.
yeah, it might just be like a great idea for me and nobody else. But I after a while I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like dip my toes in. Like I'm just going to reach out to some authors and photograph them. And it doesn't have to be a book. It can just be like a web thing for my portfolio and just see. And so I started reaching out to authors, and the first one I photographed was Courtney Milan, who
Love her.
Yeah, I love, like, I grew up on historical romance, and
Yeah.
she has been a hero of mine for forever. And I was visiting my parents in Colorado, and so I was like, "Hey, while I'm out there, um, can I photograph you?" She was like, "No." Like
Just like
she
no
was,
random stranger.
yes, yeah. Well, she was like, I need new photographs, but I don't do well with photographers. Like it just never goes well. And I told her that actually makes me want to photograph you more because I feel like that's my strength is for people who don't do well with photographers. And we chatted and had a couple of Zooms, and she eventually consented. And I went out there and photographed her. And I had this moment where she was chatting with my daughter. That was when my daughter got to assist on. And my daughter at the time, her goal in life was to be an attorney because she's good at
All
arguing,
right.
and also an author. And my daughter is also she's autistic and has
Mhm.
ADHD, and Courtney is also on the spectrum. And
Mhm.
so it was like, or is neurodiverse. I don't know her exact, but she's neurodiverse. And like watching them chat and watching Courtney just have this whole conversation with her about, what it's like to be an attorney and also an author. And it was just this incredibly beautiful moment. And the whole shoot was really like just amazing. And I finished that one. I was like, no, it needs to for sure be a book. Like I want this to be a book.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just spiraled from there.
Yeah. You're just like sliding into authors' DMs, being like, "Hi, I promise I'm
Kind
not
of.
weird. I want to take
Yeah.
your picture and interview you."
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully I had a portfolio. I had some
Right.
credibility. I wasn't just some rando. I had like a decent portfolio
Yeah.
and like some good commercial clients. And so they were able to sort of check me out and not
Yeah.
and see that I wasn't too crazy. And a lot of them needed new photos. A lot of them were
Yeah.
like, hey, because they got the photo shoots for free.
Yeah.
And I provided, hair and makeup artists and locations if they needed one. And so it was also just a way for them to get new author photos. So
Yeah. I feel like I have been noticing like I'll see an author that I follow will like post a new photo and it'll be like, "Thanks, Chandra Wicke." And I'm like,
I know,
"Oh, I bet that was from
it's,
that."
yeah, 41 of them. So now, right now, they're like everywhere, which is really fun for me. And
Yeah.
um, it's like, I think if you had told me 2 years ago that I would have done photographs for Sarah McLean and Julia
Yeah.
Quinn and Eloisa James and all these authors I've been reading for forever, I would have freaked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Been
It's
like,
so
"What?"
fun to yeah, to see my photo on Sarah's book, and it's really
Yeah.
cool.
And I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautiful photos. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So I know that the book includes both the photographs and then also like interviews, like short sort of quotes and things like that. So are you doing that? Are you working with someone that does it with you? Like, what's that
Um,
process?
so I wrote the interview questions, and so for every author, I gave them a list, and I had maybe 5 to 10 that were aimed specifically at them, and then another like 20 or so that I asked every author. And then I gave them a choice of which ones they wanted to answer. And some of them answered a lot of questions, and their spreads are a little longer, and some of them less, but I gave them like a general guideline answer about this many.
Hmm.
And so that actually was really cool doing it that way because their interviews are in their author voice, you know? So
Yeah.
Julia Quinn's interview sounds like Julia Quinn, which is
Yeah.
so fun. And to like Christina Lauren, like you can hear their author voice in
Hmm.
the actual interview, which was like such a treat for me to
Yeah.
because I'm a fan. Um,
Right.
and then I had a layout artist that I hired, like went through a lot of testing in the hiring process and found an amazing layout artist who was able to sort of bring the vision to life for me. And it was a whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I used to work in book publishing and I did quite a few like photo heavy books. Like I did quite a few like cookbooks and like that's ooh. That's
Yeah,
like, it's a
there's a steep
while.
learning curve. Yeah,
Yeah, it takes a while to
it does. Like, and it was like I don't think I understood. I think if I had understood at the beginning of it, I would not have done the project. So it's probably really good that I didn't understand like how intensive it was going to be. But it was like I got to learn all about this whole publishing process. And I'm still learning. Like we're still working on all of the
Hmm.
details for the special edition with the printer. And every day
Hmm.
it's like a new thing about, what can and can't be foiled and what kind of cover
Yeah.
materials. And it's like a whole thing. But the even just the interview process, it was like I didn't realize you had to go like we did the interview and then there's like the copy edits. Like we fit
Hmm.
it into the layout we get and then there's like the copy edits and then the proofreading and the author approvals and it's just like a whole I had a gigantic spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's especially difficult when you have like so many other people who like need to have eyes on like each individual
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, and every single thing the guarantee that I made to the authors was you will have approval over every single image and you
Yeah.
will have approval over your pages. So
Yeah.
um, they got to approve both like the initial layout and then the final layouts, as well as their people, because a lot of the authors have,
Hmm.
publicists and managers and people that are a part of that process as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, got through
Yeah.
it.
You got it. Yeah. I mean, it comes out in, I was going to say next month, but it's not quite October yet, in November.
November, yeah.
So,
I might, like, it's a possibility I might get the books at the end of October,
hmm,
hoping. So, and then November,
that's
they just start
exciting.
shipping out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you funded it via Kickstarter. What was that like? What made you like choose that direction for it rather than, I don't know, I guess like trying to get a traditional publisher
Mhm.
involved or, what have you?
So, part of the reason I didn't want to use a traditional publisher is because I am a big fan of breaking down gatekeepers. Like I didn't want I wanted to retain creative control because
Hmm.
a part of the mission behind this book is to talk about the genre and why the genre is feminist and romance as resistance in this time that we're living in.
Hmm.
And I didn't want a publisher telling me what I could and couldn't talk about with the authors. That was very important to me.
Yeah.
And then as an artist and a photographer, I have benefited from areas where the gatekeepers have been taken away. And
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of that model. And I think Kickstarter allows that model. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
Adriana and Ali's Kickstarter,
Yeah.
which is like such a big statement, right? Like it's such a big
Yeah.
statement at how big the genre is and
Yeah.
how many fans it has, as well as like
Yeah.
this is a time when they were telling authors that dystopian romance won't sell. And they
Right.
also like the whole the problems around diversity with the
Hmm.
authors and how women of color or people of color have trouble getting the same book deals as white women. And you look at who the authors are in that, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like it was a really cool. I was so like emotional a little about how well that
Yeah.
Kickstarter did because it was
Yeah.
amazing. But I partially funded on Kickstarter. I was afraid to make my goal any higher, and then partially funded just my own savings. My poor husband
Yeah.
is just like, oh, okay, hope
Woo!
this turns out well. And I'm like, me too.
You're like, yeah, me too. But it's really cool hearing you talk about how so much of your motivation behind this project was, removing gatekeepers and like and romance as resistance, particularly in a time in which many people want to take away romance and censor it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's so intrinsic to the genre. Like, I mean, obviously, I do want to say as a caveat, because I'm sure there are like listeners who are already kind of shaking their heads, like, not every single romance novel is feminist. Not every single romance novel
Right,
is,
right,
resistance, because there are a wide swath of people who read and write romance, and some of them are not, pushing the genre forward in the way that
right.
we would want it to
Absolutely.
be.
But I will say that's true in other genres too. Like
Yes,
not
yes, yes,
every
yes,
mystery is going to
yes,
be like a well-written mystery that's like,
yes,
I think that people like to point to these examples in
yes,
romance that are problematic and say, well,
yes.
women are reading this though,
Yeah.
and pretend
Right.
that that speaks for the whole genre when in
Right.
reality
Right.
it
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to flag it because I've seen, I feel like more of a conversation of like, can we stop saying that like rare romance is like inherently feminist because like you do have to work to, to make something like making something feminist is a choice. But insofar as like the foundation of the genre, it is a
Is written
feminist.
by women for women.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is a feminist genre. And I feel like so much a part of that, and also so much of the reason that romance gets so much flack in addition to the sex, like obviously a lot of it is sexism, is because of the happily ever after and the fact that it's intrinsic to the genre. Like it cannot be a genre romance novel if it doesn't have an HEA. So, how do you sort of feel about as a romance reader and as someone who's putting forward this work that's celebrating sort of that resistance of the happily ever after? How do you feel about people being like, "Oh, I don't like to read romance novels because I know the ending, because the ending is spoiled for me, like that the happily ever after is a spoiler."
Right. So it's hard for me not to just quote the authors in the book on this because they
Yeah.
talk about this, that we don't we live in a world that's not always safe for women. And it's the happily ever after gives you like a place to discuss all of these things that can be unsafe, like all of these societal things, a kink, racism,
Hmm.
you know, sexual identity, all these things you can discuss in this box, knowing that you're at the end of it, you're safe. Like at the end of
Hmm.
it, everybody's going to get through it. And it's like you're going to get that happily ever after. And so it's powerful in that way because we can know going into the book that no matter what happens at the end, like throughout it, and you can explore so many like
Hmm.
societal and cultural things, but knowing that at the end,
Right.
it's all going to be okay, like it's going to come through. So um, Christina and Lauren had a really fantastic quote about that in the book that I'm excited for people to read.
Yeah. 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 I don't want you don't have to give away too much about the book
I'm
before
happy to
it's
give it away. I
out.
just take me a
Yeah.
minute to find it.
It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Listener, go pre-order the book and then you get to read it in November. Yeah, yeah, I think that is a really excellent point in terms of it creates this sort of environment of safety, in which like from the start you can trust you feel like, or at least I feel like reading, like I feel like I can already trust the author more than I might trust authors of other genre to maybe, throw me off a cliff and put me through
Mhm.
the emotional ringer and like absolutely destroy me, but like and point out all these flaws and these parts of our society that, you know, need to be improved. And then, you know, to bring me out at the end with, a rainbow and walking, holding hands into the sunset. And
Right.
you just don't get that in other genres.
And things like playing out the dynamics of consent, like the sexual part of things, kink and consent, and
Hmm.
things that like one of my authors, Elizabeth O'Rourke, she talks about, if she were in an office and some man told her to get down on her knees, she'd be out of there, right?
Right. Kick him in the
But
balls.
right, yeah, but in a book you can explore things like that, and it's safe,
Yeah.
and you can, she talks about using only the female perspective in those sorts of situations, like things that are problematic in real life. You're safe to explore through romance,
Right.
and Jeannie Lynn has a great quote about this too, that like especially the problematic ones are things that are great
Hmm.
to explore through romance because
Right.
now it's not this taboo in society. We can talk about it. That's one of the secret superpowers of the genre.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like you look at
Yeah.
the whole dark romance genre.
I mean, yeah, no, it gets so much flack and so much pushback, but like it is, there are fantasies that are very, very common for many, many women, like violent, non-consensual fantasies that many women have and that are completely normal to have. because they're fantasies, because no one's like, yes, I would like that to happen to me in real life. But there is like a freedom in exploring it, in fiction and being able to like talk about it, even if you don't want to talk about it like, oh, this is what, in terms of yourself, but like talking about it in the context of the characters.
Yeah, talk about it, explore it, but in a way that's safe for you and in a way that no one's being exploited. And
Right.
I think that that's a really cool thing for women to be able to have. And not just women, men too. Men should read
Yeah.
romance and
Yeah. Men, non-binary folk.
right,
Yeah.
everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll read. I have I have literally this is the book.
Oh my gosh.
It's printed. These are the content proofs. And I'm going to
Oh
read
yeah.
Jeannie Lynn's quote because I think that it's a really excellent quote about what we're talking about.
Hmm.
She said, I feel books are a place to play out all the questions and permutations of consent and power, even the problematic ones, especially the problematic ones, because these power imbalances exist in life, interpersonally, and within society. And I think
Yes.
that's a very powerful point, and people like
Yeah.
to shit all over the genre because they're like, oh, women are reading and fantasizing about being raped. But like, I think that these are things that like play out within kink and within society, and this is a safe
Hmm.
place to explore that and not actually be raped, you know?
Right, right. And yeah, the promise of the HEA is that like yes, there is this man doing this surface on the surface, non-consensual stuff, doing all of this bad things, but because there's a happily ever after, you know that both he is either going to be made to suffer for it or like the heroine is going to get, great pleasure out of it or like whatever. And it harkens back to the origins of the sort of modern romance genre of like the Flame and the Flower and like the 1970s, 80s bodice rippers, which like reading as modern readers, you're like, oh
Like, oh,
God.
no. Yeah.
But so much of that is, and I'm paraphrasing Sarah McLean, and a lot of this is that it's like you couldn't, is that like in the 70s and 80s, you couldn't have a female main character being like, yes, I want sex. You had to have that because otherwise she was a slut. But she could enjoy it if like it was a little bit, if it started
She
out
didn't choose it. Yeah, if it was so
right.
Susan Elizabeth Phillips has talked about this as well. Unfortunately, not in my book, but if you look up interviews with her, she's talked about this that back when she first started writing, it was the good girl thing, right? Like you
Right.
couldn't want sex, especially
Right.
from like a powerful man, because it was a way to like still be a good girl, because you could still enjoy it, but it was like no, 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 yes, yes, yes. So it was like
Right.
the fantasy of getting to enjoy sex but still be
Yeah.
a good girl in those times,
Yeah.
like you can,
Yeah.
which I think is like wild. And there's so much to unpack there, like from a now perspective to back then.
Yeah, it's like the baby it's cold outside paradox.
Yeah,
I feel like,
exactly. Yeah.
like baby it's cold outside gets so much flack, but it's actually like, no, it's just two horny people and one of them is a woman, so she can't admit that she's horny. That's the whole song.
And I mean, you watch any movie from that time too, you see the same thing. Like you watch Indiana Jones, where he's like he basically sexually harasses this woman when he's like
Right.
whips
Right.
her and like pulls her in and she's struggling against it. And it's like, it wasn't just romance novels, it was
Yeah.
like lots of media at the time.
Yeah.
So,
Meanwhile, me, I'm like, oh, Indy.
right, right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a little more nuanced now post Me Too, which is not a bad thing, but I think that
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
you have to look at what life was as we were steeped in the patriarchy.
Yeah, and I mean I think it does do a disservice in some ways to the genre and to readers when you have and we see this more like in romance novels, particularly like contemporary romance novels coming out where like the hero is like this like pre-baked hyper feminist, like has never had a misogynistic thought in his life, like man. And like in some ways that's amazing and I love the fantasy of like that man existing. But it kind of takes away from like the idea of like that you can still have a happily ever after,
Right.
even if
And
your partner's flawed a little bit.
the character arc, it's
Right.
it's maybe not as powerful of a character arc. Um, and one of the things that, again, I think this was Susan Elizabeth Phillips talks about is that the more powerful the man, the
Hmm.
more powerful the woman is when she conquers him.
Yes.
Like her, like that whole character arc where he's this like big alpha male and then she conquers him. And at the
Yes.
end, he's like, willing to do
Y-
whatever she says.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a fun, like a fun arc there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is I feel like alpha males get so much flack, but like when an alpha male ends the book like on his knees, like
Yeah, right?
that's
It's satisfying.
right. That's the chef. That's the moment.
Yep.
That's the happily ever after that you read the book for, that you put up with all of his crap for, because you know
Right.
he's gonna
You
like
get so mad at
fall.
him through it, but then when he finally like
Yeah, when he gets
has to
humbled,
grovel, oh,
like
I love that. Yeah.
excellent. Yeah. You were talking about how Courtney Milan is neurodiverse. Now your own daughter is like neurodiverse and, autistic ADHD. And I am as well. Like, and I discovered that I was autistic because of romance novels. Like that was the first thing that made me was
Interesting.
reading romance featuring autistic characters by autistic
I love
authors.
that.
And I was like, this is very, very familiar. I was like, this is
Yeah.
uncomfortably familiar, but exploring, but like, it's not like that was the first time that I'd ever read autistic characters or even probably like books about autistic characters written by autistic authors. But it was the first
Right.
time that those characters got treated, I think, with a dignity that is unique to romance novels, and
Yeah.
that sort of like guaranteed happily ever after. And I think that the promise of the happily ever after becomes, like we were talking about before, because it creates that safety. It enables you to
Mhm.
like explore your own identity
Yes. Yeah.
and like question things about yourself in a way that isn't necessarily possible in other genres. Because it shows, and I mean, not even just for autistic care, I feel like for any sort of marginalization, like it,
Hmm.
romance novels acknowledge both like the struggles of living that with that identity while also prioritizing the joy. It's like, yes, like you can be happy and joyful and live a full and romantic life, with
Yeah.
whatever identity you have.
Yeah. I love that it's such a big trend right now to have plus size characters. Like
Hmm.
that's one of my favorite things. Julia Wolf is one of my authors as well, and she really prioritizes that. And so part of the book is we did these narrative scenes or like
Oh, yes. Wait.
photographed.
I'm sorry. I'm like so excited for
You
that.
saw the strictly professional one. So we photographed these scenes from romance novels. I was able to license five romance novels for the book. And Mari is this photographer who just does this like intimate, beautiful photography. And I hired her to come and shoot the scenes. And one of them was P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf. And the character in that is
Hmm.
plus sized. And it was really, really hard to cast a plus size person because
Hmm.
number one, there's like not a lot of plus size models. And number two, they weren't super thrilled with the idea of like taking their clothes off because there's like some intimacy, like the intimacy.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's much easier to cast hard bodies because there's a lot more hard body people like willing to model than there are plus size people. But we did find a fantastic model, and I just like fucking love it. Like I just love because it's so beautiful. It makes me so happy to see these like beautiful images,
Yeah.
like a happily ever after or this like love story, and one of the characters is plus size.
What books I don't remember seeing, and I probably just missed it. Like, what are the five books that you did scenes for?
So, Strictly Professional by Catherine Nolan, P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf, Sanctuary by Rebecca Weatherspoon, Only for the Weekend by Riley Hart, Forget Me Not by Julie Soto.
Okay.
Those were the
Oh,
five.
that's a good one. Yeah,
That is a good one. That one
those
was,
are good
I didn't think I
ones.
was going to be able to get that one because that was optioned with Universal. But right at the end, when we were wrapping up photography, that option expired. And she was like, because I had asked her, she was one of the first shoots that I did was with Julie Soto. And I was like,
Yeah.
I really, really want to shoot this scene. And she was like, oh, it's already optioned. But then the option expired right as we were about to wrap up
Oh,
photography. And she's like, if
perfect.
you want to do it, I was like, I want to do it.
You're like, don't mind if I do.
Yeah. So
Running in here. I'm so excited to see all of it. Like that's so cool.
yeah, I wish we could have put all of the photo because Mari's so good and she delivered like 60 photos for the shoot, but only like 20 of them are in the actual book. And I wish
Yeah.
that I could like have put the whole like all of them in there, but those
Yeah.
pages would have gone on for a really long time.
I don't think
Even
I feel like romance reader, like we're a voracious lot. I don't know how much
yeah,
to find it.
my layout artist when she initially laid them out, it was like half what they are now. I was like, no, I need more, more story. I'm sorry,
More.
they're yeah, more.
You're like, I don't think you understand. Like romance readers, like more is like our
We want
tagline. Like it's
yeah.
we're the definition of wanting
We want
more.
the sexy pictures.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I love like cosplayers and like people who will like, you know,
Just as the
do
characters.
these like scenes like as the character. I'm always like so in awe and like jealous.
Yeah. I mean, these scenes in the book, they're essentially just fan art. Their
Yeah.
photography is fan art, which is
Yeah.
and I think, romance readers, we love fan art. So
So who was your favorite author to photograph slash interview?
I would say that this is such a like cop out answer, but every single one was like such a joy. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody that was awful. So, but there were experiences that were really cool for some of them. So, as far as experiences, the one that I did with Sarah McLean and Allie and Adriana and Julie, they were all four there in a house, and I photographed all four of them on this. That was amazing just because of who they were, and it felt like a little party. And my makeup artist brought her Chihuahua. And it's funny because I see Allie's photos all over the place now, and the Chihuahua's in there.
Oh, is that the makeup artist? True. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's the
Allie brought
makeup
her
artist's
dog
dog.
to these
No,
pic. That's so funny. It's not even her
she does.
dog.
Yeah, but it's in all the pictures now because she wouldn't let go of it. Like I had to like take Chica away from her and be like, "I'm sorry, no more Chica. We have to take your
That's
pictures."
so funny. I assumed it was like her dog that she
No, that was such a fun shoot. Even though it was nerve-wracking because I was kind of scared of Sarah. It's like because I just love her so
Yeah.
much. So I was like a
Yeah.
little bit terrified. Chris Rice, he was like, I wish I could keep him because he was just like a doll. He was so much fun.
Yeah.
We shot at this like beach house on the Santa Monica beach,
Oh,
which
that's
was
cool.
like insane. It was so beautiful. And
Yeah.
it was this like misty day. We couldn't get a sunset. We wanted to get a sunset because of his Sunset Cove series.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a sunset because like the sun never came out. It was just all moody and misty. And
Yeah.
then when it got dark, we like tromped down to the beach and had like the
Yeah.
lights of the pier in the background and it's raining and he's got his trench coat and it was just so vibey and
Oh,
fun. And
yeah.
like he's just a sweet and hilarious. And I just adored him. When I went to photograph Christine Feehan,
Mhm.
she is like, do you know who she is?
I'm not
She's like the
familiar. Yeah.
OG vampire romance along
Okay.
with Anne Rice. I don't know if we can't call,
Yeah.
well, Anne Rice doesn't really count as romance,
Yeah, I
but
don't
like,
know. Yeah.
but she's like the OG. She was like
Okay.
pre-Twilight. So she's written over a
Yeah.
hundred paranormal
Oh,
romances.
okay.
And um her books are so wildly different than what paranormal romance is now because
Hmm.
a lot of like romantasy paranormal they hit the same beats. Hers are just like completely
Yeah.
original. They're so interesting. But she's like the OG paranormal romance author and she lives in Mendocino. So I had like one day to get up there because she doesn't really travel now. And I
Mm.
flew into Santa Ana and drove 2 hours through like a redwood forest and like legit
Amazing.
cried, like pulled over and cried because it was like the most beautiful
Oh
like
my
drive
gosh.
I've ever done.
Mhm.
With like the forest, and then you come out of the trees and you end up like on the coast with like the crashing rocks and the ocean
Yes.
and like
No, I
Mendocino perched there. And it was just insane. And then I went to her house, which she lives on this like compound on the PCH with like
checks out.
redwoods. And
Yeah.
yeah, and her family, she and her family like were so welcoming and just like offered me tea and took me in, and I just felt so
Oh,
cared for. And then it was just like the whole experience was so beautiful and magical. And I
yeah.
was like, God, how freaking lucky am I? Like, how cool is this
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah.
And then like meeting legends, like photographing Julia Quinn was just like another one I was
Hmm.
terrified. Like
Yeah.
it was
No.
hard to enjoy it because I was so scared I would mess it up.
Yeah. I met Julia Quinn once. I went to a like a romance conference and like did not know she was going to be there. So I didn't bring like any of my books, which like sucked. But I like went in the signing line. I was like, be cool. I was like, be cool for like 30 seconds. Just muscle through this like while you're talking with her, and then you could go freak out in the corner.
And she's so down to earth. She has no idea that she's
Yeah.
Julia Quinn. Like she
Yeah. She was so kind. Like she was so cool.
Yeah, she's like so sweet and down to earth and nice, and is still nice. Like she still like
Hmm.
will email me things and is like super nice and easygoing. And but I was terrified that whole time that I was going to mess it up or that like do something to make her not like me because I just adore her.
Yeah.
But there were other ones like that, like Jane Ann Krentz was like
Yeah.
such a sweetheart, or Susan Elizabeth Phillips was hilarious.
Hmm.
Like just she's such a legend, and she was just.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have really cool stories from every single one of
Mhm.
those shoots.
Is there anything else that you want to say about the happily ever after society, about HEAs in general, about romance?
Well, okay, so the book, I should probably say the book is you can pre-order it now. The way that it works is because I published independently, I ordered enough from the printer to cover my Kickstarter sales and then like a few hundred more. So
Hmm.
if you want it for Christmas, you got to pre-order it now, and then those ship out in November. And then hopefully I'll do like another drop that will sell over the next year. But
Okay.
if you want it for Christmas or a Christmas gift, you should do that.
Yeah, I know shipping is insane now, especially for like full color gloss pages books.
Dude.
Like I remember we had a cookbook that like hit the New York Times list and then we ran out of stock and then like you gotta ship it from China and then like some of the books fell off the boat and it was like this
Yeah.
whole
And they don't offer insurance, most of those Chinese printers.
yeah.
So if your books fall off the boat, you're kind of screwed for those
Yeah.
unless your printer is like takes pity on you. But the printer that I ended up using is in Canada, and they're more expensive than China, obviously. But one of the things that I loved is they offered insurance. And the number two thing is they're all employee owned. They're
Oh,
100%
that's
employee owned. So
good.
even like the kids who cut the grass at that
Yeah.
company have a stake in it. And I like that
Yeah.
was enough to be like, okay, I'm going to spend the extra money to have it printed there because their books are beautiful. Like they're high
Hmm.
quality and they're going to do it justice. And I love the idea that the money is going back into the pockets of
Yeah.
the people who are making the books.
No, I love that. Yeah. That's the essence of the HEA, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm not a great businesswoman, but
No.
but I'm a decent artist, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that what I talked about, I was like, let's maybe talk about our favorite books with like endings with HEAs that surprised you or that like still stick with you.
Yeah.
And you were like, you were not sure how many you would be able to pull up, which I
Right.
get.
Well, I
Cause
was like, sometimes when they surprise you, I'm like, no, what? No,
like what the
this is not what I signed up for. Right. But
yeah.
I did come up with a few,
Okay.
and they're surprising for different reasons.
Okay.
So, the first one, okay, let me find my list. Ah, fell on the floor while we were talking. Okay. First one, I was surprised by the twist. Like the twist got me, and
Yeah.
that was Legend Born by Tracy Dion. Have you read that one?
It's on my like TBR. but I haven't.
Okay,
But
so
I also
I
don't
picked it
care. I
up.
love spoilers, so
I'm not going to give you the spoiler, but I
okay.
will.
Well, just yeah.
That one I read with my kids, and because it's a YA, and it's sort of like
Yes.
it's kind of like a Harry Potter-ish in that it's like
Yeah.
not Harry Potter. No, more Twilight. It's both. It's better than either one of those, honestly. It's better than Twilight. It's better
Yeah.
than Harry
No, I've
Potter.
heard amazing things about it. Yeah.
It was so good, and I was not expecting the twist at the end, but it was so satisfying. Like it was
Mhm.
so satisfying. I was like, this is an excellent twist, and I'm so happy that I didn't get the spoiler before I read the book, so that
Okay.
it was just like, oh, like my kids and I were like staring at each other, like, oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
good. So that one was like still
Yeah.
an HEA, even though it's like that genre, right? The romantic where they
Right.
have to, you
Right.
know, end with a cliffhanger. But
Right.
I didn't mind that cliffhanger. It was good.
Yeah.
Um, Another one is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. Do you know that one?
I haven't
It's
read. That's
like
another one that's like bit on by.
that one, it's about this couple that they're basically at the end of their relationship and they kind of hate each
Yeah.
other. They start the book just hating each other. And
Yeah.
she's trying to get him to break up with her.
Yeah, because it's like
So
the wedding, like isn't it like whoever breaks up like has to pay for the wedding or
yeah,
something?
I can't remember what that, but that one I remember like just laughing all the way through because of how
Yeah.
freaking unhinged it was. And, like it surprised me that she was able to like so deftly turn that into a happily ever
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
because it was like in the beginning you kind of hate this dude. He's like a
Yeah.
wussy mama's boy and she's just like fully feral. And by the end, it was so fun. It was just like a deliciously fun and surprising read.
Yeah. I had two that were like that where I spent the whole time being like I how the heck are these two people gonna like end up in a happy relationship at the end for two completely different reasons. One of them is Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and that's um it's like Old West, like 18, like classic Beverly Jenkins. And then the hero is a black man, but he's white passing. And he's like living as a white man. And the heroine is a black woman living as a black woman. And so, like, they literally cannot be together. Like, they cannot get married if he's like still passing. So you're like the whole book, you're like, how is, how are they gonna make this work? And obviously it's Miss Bev, so like
Right.
she hits it out of
She's
the
so
park because
talented.
it's Miss Bev. Um, but then another one was Dark Needs. Speaking of paranormal, Dark Needs at Night's Edge by Cressley Cole. It's like one of the Immortals After Dark
Oh.
book, but it's like a vampire. Speaking of feral, I mean like a feral vamp, like the most feral of the vampires. And then the heroine is a ghost. She is a ballerina ghost, and
Oh.
they can't touch. Like only he can see her, obviously, because they're like fated mates, TM.
Mhm.
But you're like, she's literally a fucking ghost. Like, how does this end?
Tell me the title again. I'm gonna write it down.
Dark Needs at Night's Edge.
I've read some of the Immortals After Dark, but
Yeah.
not enough
Yeah, I
because
haven't
of
read all.
Sandman,
I yeah.
because of Fated Mates.
Yeah. I started with
Show me
Lothair,
something.
which I feel like is like sacrilege, but I was like, you know
Mhm.
what?
Yeah,
And then
that's
every time
fair.
Lothair appears in the earlier books, like now that I've like started to go back,
You spoiled
I'm
it for
like,
yourself.
oh, you tricky little guy. I'm like, I know you're supposed to be a villain, but like,
I know your secret.
I'm like, I can't take you seriously.
And then I had one more.
Okay.
So this one, after I photographed Susan Elizabeth Phillips,
Hmm.
um, I was texting with Kate Claiborne, and she was like, "She's my hero, and I love her." And she was like, "Tell me you've read Kiss an Angel." And I
Oh
was
my
like, "I have
God.
not. Like, I've read like her Chicago Stars series. Like, I've read so many of her sports stuff, but I had not read Kiss an Angel." And she's like, "Read it right now. Like, stop what you're doing, read it right now, and get right back to me." So, so I did,
Bananas.
going into it completely blind. I had no idea what I was in for. I, I could not like that whole book is like amazing bananas. Like has the 90s like not so consensual stuff, but just like
But it's better, I feel like. It's one of the like still easier to read like nowadays. Because
Hmm.
I also read it like a few years ago and I was like, what is going on?
I,
This mostly takes place at a circus, and that's all I'll say
uh-huh.
because everything else is
I know
just
I don't
so
want to spoil it.
insane.
If anybody is listening to this, don't don't if you haven't read it, don't read any spoilers. Just go in blind because that was the best ever.
Yeah,
Because every like chapter was something new and interesting and crazy. And at the end, I was just like, holy shit, that was a fun ride.
I was
That
bananas.
was
No. Yeah, my sister and I like we listened to it and I just remember like it was like every 5 feet we'd like pause and be like, what was that? We'd be like, what just happened?
I know.
Oh, it's
And like
bananas.
the gravel too. I really liked the gravel in
Oh,
it.
yes,
Her like just
right.
disappearing and
Right.
you know
And
moving
that's right.
backward. And yeah, that
That's a
was
man
fun.
brought low,
Yeah,
deservedly so,
exactly,
by
right? Yeah.
love. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That was
perfect.
she was right to tell me to stop everything I was doing. Like I
Yeah.
literally stopped the book I was reading because I like if
Well, I feel like
if
if
Kate
Kate
Clayborn,
Claiborne was
yeah,
like, read this,
if
I'd be
she's
like,
gonna tell
yes,
me, yeah,
you're
and then I'm like,
right.
okay, yeah, I'm on it. So
Heard,
that was my
understood.
other surprising happily ever after.
Yeah. Yeah, that book's insane.
Yeah.
My one other one, well, okay, so I had two other ones. One, they're both historicals. I feel like most of these were like historicals because I feel like contemporaries, like, I don't know, maybe it's just the ones that I'm reading. A lot of the times, like, they're easier. I can like see how the
How
resolution
they're
is going
gonna
to
work it out.
come and the resolution.
Yeah.
But like historicals, just by nature, is so much more bananas
Mhm.
that I feel like it's, obviously, though, we just talked about Kiss an Angel, which is contemporary, and that one's insane. But Day of the Duchess by Sarah McLean. And these next two, like I have to spoil this ending simply because I can't talk about the ending without spoiling it, but Day of the
Yeah.
Duchess ends with them getting divorced,
Mhm.
which is like you're like because you spend the whole book, I mean the whole book is about the heroine wanting to get a divorce and the hero being like, yeah, sure, we'll get a divorce, but like secretly being like, I'm gonna win you back. And so you're like, well, obviously, maybe he'll say we can get a divorce, but she'll be like, no, never. Like we won't. I feel like that's
Mhm.
how a lot of romance writers would end it. But no, like the last chapter is him being like, here's the divorce. We're passing the act in Parliament. You're like, what? Um, the other one is The Duchess Hunt by Lorraine Heath. And that's the epilogue that still sticks with me. I mean, the book as a whole is like very sweet and lovely, and Lorraine Heath
I
is,
read it.
an
I just don't
icon.
remember. Remind me the plot of that one?
So the plot of it is like it's like a duke and then his like secretary, his like private secretary, and like she's supposed to it's like the second book in a
Right.
series. I've never actually
Okay.
read the first book, but like she's supposed to be finding him a duchess, hence the
Yes, I
the
remember
title The
that.
Duchess Hunt. And then he's, essentially like actually I would like to marry you. And she has like a quote unquote scandalous past, like a really sort of like tragic past. I won't go like too into it, but basically she as like a minor had to take nude
The
photographs
photographs. Yeah,
to
I
support her
remember this.
family to like keep them from poverty. And like now those photographs are out there and she's like the reason they can't be together, she's like we can't be together because like these photographs are out there. And he like makes a vow to her to find every single copy and destroy it. And the epilogue is like 2020 and it's like the current Duke, modern day Duke, like 200 years later, like throwing the last photograph in and he's like, I don't even like know what's in here. I just know that like this mission has been like passed down like
Oh,
over the decades, over the
good
centuries that
ending.
like we have to
Yeah.
like destroy all these photographs. And I was like, Lorraine.
Yeah. I wanted her in my book. I was like, couldn't get over to Massachusetts or wherever she was.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah, that's a
Volume
good
two.
one.
Volume
Volume two.
two.
I know there's so many. I really hope that I'm able to do a book because there's so many authors that I would have
Yeah.
loved to, but I ran out of money basically. Like otherwise I could have kept going.
You're
100 authors, 200.
Yeah, like suddenly like the book is 15
Right.
pounds. Like it's sinking the ship on the
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, volume two. Well, listener, go and pre-order that book so that we can get volume
So
two
they
and
can make a
then
volume two.
volume
Yeah.
three and volume four
Volume
and,
five.
just all of
Eventually, I've
the,
photographed every romance novelist.
yes, on the planet, like every
Yeah.
single one. That's the goal.
Yeah.
It's a worthy goal.
So that's wild. Well,
All
this looks
right.
fun. This is a fun chat.
Yeah. All right. One last question to round
Yeah.
out the episode. What
Uh-oh.
was the last book that made you want to stay up all night reading? You didn't
Oh my
actually have to,
gosh.
it didn't actually
Not my
have to
list.
like stay up all night, but like you wanted to.
I mean, I stay up all night reading every night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the last one that I read that I stayed up all night reading was If Not for My Baby by Kate Golden,
I have
which
not heard of
I
that. I
didn't
thought you were going
even
to say
know.
Susan Elizabeth Phillips because I think she has a book
No,
with that
it
title.
does have it. Yeah, or similar, right? Is it If Not for My?
Yeah. I don't know.
But it's basically Hosier fan fiction.
Oh, wait. I feel like I do have this on hold at the library.
Which I didn't even know I was a fan of Hosier. I mean, I liked the one song,
I
but
do. I do. It's on
yeah,
hold.
that's the yeah.
5 weeks.
So I stayed up all night reading that one. It was good. I was like, I was surprised at how much I loved it because I was like, I don't care about, but I someone else
Yeah.
recommended it, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll read it, and it was great.
Yeah.
I totally enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
who
All right.
doesn't
Well,
love
now
a
I'm
rock star?
extra excited. Right. Right.
So that was the last one I stayed up all night reading. What about you? What was the last one you stayed up all night reading?
Oh my God. I just forgot every book ever that I've ever read.
I know that's why I had to like consult my
Yeah,
phone.
pull up the Goodreads real quick. Oh, it was yes, it was Vengeance and Death by J.D. Robb.
Oh,
An
Nora
eyeball
actually.
book. It's in the In Death series.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like, I know we don't like calling romance guilty pleasures, but the In Death series is a guilty pleasure for me because it's a cop romance and I feel guilty
Reading
enjoying
cop romance.
reading cop romance.
I get it. Yeah,
But it's Nora, and I'm like, this book came
I
out 30
know.
years ago. And like those, I just get them like when I'm like, oh, I don't know what to read. I'm like, let me just go get the
Yeah.
next one from the library. So that
She's
one,
such like a deft writer too. Like I feel like you just it
yeah,
just hides when she
right.
Nora.
Yeah, she's one of those ones. It's like similar to like I think Beverly Jenkins, where I'm just like, I
Mhm.
know this is gonna hit it out of the park. Like I know I don't have to worry.
I wanted Nora for the book too. And Chris Rice, he knows her and he was like, you're not gonna be able to get Nora. And I
No
was like, I'm
way!
gonna try.
Dang
And
it.
he was like, she keeps her circle very small. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
so I did try, but
yeah.
no
I'm sure
response.
she's been burned
Yeah,
before,
she keeps it
unfortunately.
small and tight now. Like the that sounded wrong, but she keeps her circle small.
Small and tight.
Sorry.
And that's it.
Romance novels. I don't know. I'm like blushing.
Yeah. All right. So where can they find you?
I mostly hang out on Instagram. I was trying to do TikTok, but then, this whole thing that's happening in
Yeah.
October, state run TikTok. But Instagram, I'm at Chandra Wicke Photography or Happily Ever After Society.
All right. And that'll
All
all
right.
be linked in the description, listener.
Oh, cool. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming. It was
Yeah.
so great chatting with you.
Yeah, this is a fun chat. Good luck with all the editing because I feel like there's a
It's
lot of rambling and tangents. So,
that's the essence of this podcast is rambling and
okay.
tangents. So, all right, listener, that was awesome. I love talking with just people who are unapologetically fans of the genre. And Chandra Wiki also takes beautiful photos, which you can't see because you're listening to this on audio, but you can if you go follow her and hopefully pre-order the Happily Ever After Society. I'm not someone who's usually like coffee table books are my thing, but that's a coffee table book. That could be my thing. If you have an author or a romance reader or a topic that you want me to cover on the podcast in a future episode, please slide into my DMs on Instagram Threads or TikTok at We Read It One Night, or my email, we read it one night at gmail.com. I'm not creative enough to come up with endless topics and guest ideas for this. It's just like when someone asks you your favorite book and you suddenly forget every single book that you've ever read. Someone's like, "What are you going to do for your podcast?" And I suddenly forget every single idea that I've ever had and every single thing I've ever wanted to talk about. Um, but yeah, if you want more like this or anything else, please let me know. Don't forget to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. If you haven't already, it is the easiest and free way to support the podcast. You can also buy me a coffee if you want to buy me my little Dunkin' Donuts treat while that I drink while I'm editing the podcast. Or you can shop the Etsy shop, Evelyn and Adelaide, which is named after my cats. And it features bookish, prints and apparel. But yeah, thank you so much for listening again. Godspeed, comrades.